First of all, my voice may not be as strong as some of the other gentlemen here. Can everybody hear me in the back there? Okay, good.
Does it work? Does the micro
It's
work?
not working.
It's not working at all?
There's no mic.
I'll do the best I can.
A little louder.
Okay. Well, my family and I are just absolutely delighted to see Dad honored with this induction into the Utah Aviation Hall of Fame. And we certainly want to express our appreciation to the Fighter Aces Association, the Daedalian Organization, Hill Air Force Base Museum, Major Gilmore for his part in this. We're just thrilled and delighted. The plaque is just absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Dad was born at home in Spanish Fork, Utah on June 7th, 1921. Walter and Sarah Twelves. He had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. His father worked in the construction business. As a teenager, he worked for local farmers, played on his high school football team, played the drums in a dance band. He wanted to learn to fly. His first airplane ride was in an Eagle Rock biplane. A barnstormer landed his biplane.
Mom can't hear you. You gotta talk louder.
Okay, a barnstormer landed his biplane in a field near my father's home. And Dad and his best friend, a gentleman named Joel Thorvaldson, ran to see the airplane. And the pilot made them a deal. If they would keep the cows away from the takeoff and landing area, he would give them a ride at the end of the day. And that flight was every bit as good as a ride in a flying saucer. Dad and his friend were just totally hooked. And they both went on to become military pilots. Dad originally planned on joining the Army Air Corps, but it didn't work out that way. He went up to Fort Douglas on 3 different occasions for an induction physical. But every time he went, he got such a bad case of white coat syndrome that they kept rejecting him for high blood pressure. After the 3rd time, he was getting kind of frustrated, and he happened to walk by a Navy recruiter on his college campus, who called out to him and said, "How about you? Do you have what it takes to fly off a carrier?" And Dad stopped for a minute to talk to him, and he says, "I'm going to join the Army Air Corps." Well, the Navy recruiter was no dummy. He knew just the right buttons to push. So he kind of smiled and kind of sneered and condescendingly said, "Well, that's just fine. That'll work out really good. You probably couldn't cut it in the Navy anyway." If you've ever seen a movie called Back to the Future, that was just like Biff telling Marty McFly that he was a chicken. There's only one possible response to a comment like that. Dad knew just what to say. He said, "Oh yeah?" The recruiter signed him up on the spot. Smart recruiter. He knew what he was doing. Anytime you get a bunch of young, competitive, and highly motivated guys together, give them a 2,000 horsepower fighter, 650 caliber machine guns, and some bad guys to blow away, scorekeeping gets to be a pretty big deal. I can remember Dad telling me about one particular Zero that was a little more involved than most, because in the process of getting it, he nearly shot down the air group commander. And the fact that, it's never a good idea to shoot down the boss, but the fact that he was an ensign at the time didn't help the situation at all. What happened was the group was en route to a strike, and they ran into a number of Zeros. And things turned into a furball so quickly that they didn't have time to release their drop tanks. And Dad said that he got behind a Zero that was coming out of a turn, and he started firing on it, and he was getting good hits on it when another Hellcat that was trying to get lined up on the same Zero came between them and flew right into his stream of bullets. As soon as he saw what was happening, he got off the trigger just as quick as he could. But he was kind of ticked off because that was his zero. And as he pulled away, he could see the CAG's markings on the tail of his airplane. And so when they got back down and landed, Dad told his division leader, a gentleman named George Duncan, that the CAG had taken the zero. Well, George Duncan knew how to take care of his wingman. And he got a meeting with Dave McCampbell, who was kind of reluctant to, give away a zero, but he agreed to review the gun camera footage with him. And the gun camera footage confirmed Dad's story. And Dave McCampbell was still kind of reluctant because, it's hard to give up a touchdown. And he looked at Dad and said, "How's about I split it with you?" And Dad looked at Dave and said, "No." Yes, sir.
He said, "No, sir."
No, sir. And Dave McCampbell said, "Yeah, okay, it's yours." And I share this story with you for a couple of reasons. One is that I want to salute Dave McCampbell. He treated a young ensign fairly, but he could have used his rank for his own benefit. I think it's fair to say that he understood that by giving up his plane to that zero, that the word would get around. And if his pilots understood that he ran a fair command and that he took care of his own and they would be treated fairly, that could only strengthen the unity of his air group. He was a wise leader and a good man, and he was there when our country needed him. I want to acknowledge him. I happened to see this gun camera footage when I rented a World War II documentary in 1989. And the reason I recognized it was because the Hellcat that came in between the two planes still had its drop tank attached. And I showed the footage to Dad, and I said, "Dad, was that you shooting up Dave McCampbell?" And he laughed and said, "Yeah, that's it." And in preparing for today, I went out on YouTube to see if I could find that gun camera footage again. And I found it. And it's just absolutely fascinating to watch. When the clip comes on, and it only lasts 7 seconds, but when it comes on, you can see a zero coming in from the left side of the screen. And he's turning away. And as soon as Dad gets a beat on him, you can see the tracers from his machine guns coming to bear on the zero. And you can see getting some hits and flashes on the fuselage and parts coming off the airplane. And about the same time, you can see this other Hellcat come in from the left side of the screen and fly right into the stream of bullets. You can see Dad got off the trigger, but he flew into the stream of bullets. In less than 7 seconds, Dad nailed the zero, and it sure looks like Dave McCampbell's airplane took about 30 rounds, too.
Scary airplane.
Even with the danger of friendly fire, no one was holding anything back. Another reason that I share this story is it illustrates how hard everyone was pressing the attack. I'm reminded of W.B. Spider Webb's famous radio call when he said, "Any American fighter near Orote Peninsula? I have 40 Japanese planes surrounded and need a little help." He was alone at the time, but he didn't wait 1 second for help. He tore into the enemy airplanes. He shot down 6 confirmed and got 2 probables before he ran out of ammunition. And when he got back to the carrier, his plane was shot up so badly that they just pushed it over the side into the ocean. It was a strike. It had been damaged so badly. And I think that kind of courage and aggressiveness is a big part of why we won World War II. And this brings me to the third reason I share this story with you. Leroy Grumman and his team deserve a tip of the hat also. Leroy Grumman was the head of Grumman Aircraft, the contractor that built the Hellcat. And he put 212 pounds of armor plate around the cockpit and around the oil cooler, self-sealing fuel tanks in the wings.